Hi, my name is Jack Jin. I'm here to talk about AEM Headless and Omnichannel. So what is AEM and Omnichannel? Well, very simply put, it's AEM and more than one channel of content. This could be websites, this could be a mobile app, this could be email. As a disclaimer, this video will be made with a lot of fictional content to protect my previous clients' implementations. Let's talk about solution one. So here we have potentially an upstream planning tool, and this could be quite a few things. This could be from an Azure service. This could be a marketing planning tool. Whatever it is, sometimes there's a need to create content fragments and experience fragments. In this example, we're talking about content fragments. Author then enters in content and content fragment, gets published. In this example, a scheduler will query GraphQL and find the latest updated content fragments, and then sends it over to a subscription event. This scheduler ensures that all publications are identified and updates are properly sent to the right subscription. Here in this example, we have two topics listening to this event. And then here we have two separate channels listening to the topic, and then they process the publication and they handle it in each its own channel. And notice channel B that we have a way to fetch images from the AEM publish. Sometimes some systems want to host images on its own so that images and content stay together. You'll notice this solution is very popular in event-driven architecture, where there's this concept of an event hub and topics that happens. Some MarTech stacks really enjoy it, and it is part of their core solution. Moving on to solution sample number 2. Here, instead of having content fragments, we have experience fragments. Now, experience fragments can also be leveraged using headless content as well. So thinking about it a little bit differently, Adobe Target historically has supported experience fragments even in its early days in 6.5, whereas content fragments still not yet supported as a recording of this video in AEM 6.5. So AEM authors can author experience fragments, publish them to Target, publish them to AEM Publish Server, and then here is where things gets really interesting. Author has the capability to leverage Adobe Target for experience fragment, and mobile apps and email marketing both have access to the same content and variations so that they can also pick and choose which content fragment to go in. So here we're achieving a omni-channel vision with personalization. And the other call out to this diagram I would like to make is that I'm choosing to specify SSG here. It just means server-side generated, or is commonly known as compile time. Some mobile applications prefer to have the mobile content be cached within the mobile application so that when it gets published, the content is part of the application. However, you still have the authoring capability and omni-channel capability. We'll go into solution number 3. Here we have AEM pages, experience fragments, and content fragments. Do note, my note at the bottom here is that the pages are using experience fragments and content fragments. Experience fragments are also using content fragments. This enables quite a bit advanced capability within AEM. In this diagram, site 2 is leveraging pages, which is great, and site 1 is also leveraging pages. However, pages themselves are also leveraging experience fragments and content fragments. Here, just similar to the previous example, we're using Markdown to have mobile apps consume published experience fragments, and as well as content fragments also supports Markdown within Adobe ecosystem. Mobile app 1 will only consume content fragments using GraphQL, and mobile app 2 chooses to consume content fragments and experience fragments in Markdown. This is what I would consider one of the more flexible hybrid methods in AEM usage, where you have pages sharing content from both experience fragment and content fragments, which is then also shared with other application. As you can see in solution 3, we're highlighting the complexity or the potential capabilities of AEM Headless and how it could be thought and used. All right, what did we just talk about? So 6 things I would like to call attention to. First is the publishing pattern. As you can see that sometimes you publish to a queue, sometimes you publish and you wait for the content to be pulled, and then sometimes you publish and then you also trigger something on the other side to let them know that you're ready for the content to be retrieved. The second thing you probably have noticed that there's a good dynamic between push and pull, in where that sometimes content gets pulled from AEM and sometimes AEM pushes the content to the right place. Third, right, we're kind of in headless in MarTech. Sometimes it's API driven, sometimes it's event driven. Fourth, you probably noticed that some headless content are surfaced up using client-side rendered. Some are surfaced up using server-side rendered, and some are surfaced up using server-side generated. Adobe Target is a good example of a browser making a call to Adobe Target and using client-side rendering to render the content. Number 5, you probably noticed the data type. So in this quick call, I talked about HTML, Markdown, and JSON. And number 6, in headless content, it is not uncommon to have upstream automation so that your content fragments and experience fragments can be created automatically. In addition to what was talked about, there's a few other considerations that I did not have a diagram for. So first one is modular versus page. In modular, you would be considering content that's produced at the module level, and you don't really touch the page. So the page that's set up will be structured to pull in modules. Going deeper a little bit on modular versus page. So in a true modular content perspective, modules themselves are self-identifying and then self-made available. They can be used on many pages and many channels. They may have go live time, go off time. They might just be made for specific campaigns. And page is more of a channel-specific concept as well. So this is where in true headless large implementations, content are thought as more modular, whereas in more traditional headless implementation, pages still exist and modules gets added to the page. Again, the biggest difference here is that modules, in the true modular content implementations, modules are the only things that gets modified by marketers, whereas pages just automatically pull in the modules. Second, we have the location personalization and classification. There's 2 places that's generally done. First is in the CMS in AEM, where content author authors the content and tags it with the right type of content. Second place that's more common is that the personalization classification gets done in Adobe Target or a similar system. Third consideration is taxonomy. This is a very large topic in headless. It probably deserves its own video. Fourth, thinking through explicit content and cutover. So some content are marketing content, and that's what AEM is used to. However, as soon as you get into the headless world, some content are for legal statements and insurance forms. That's not usually considered marketing content. However, it is managed in AEM. These applications and these capabilities have significant legal impact that's not seen in AEM, and sometimes there's very strict review process that's required, not only for code, but for content. And picking back number 5, sometimes content is built within the CI/CD pipeline so that the content is reviewed and processed using CI/CD as well. And number 6, we touched on it briefly, but we didn't go in deep enough. Sites and headless works really well in a hybrid pattern where you're leveraging both the power of AEM in the headful content as well as headless content. Thank you for watching, and I hope everyone have a great day.